everyone, welcome back to Let's Talk. My name is John, and today here on the channel, we're going to be talking about 1948's Rope and its brand new Universal 4K Blu Ray that just came out. So Rope was directed by Alfred Hitchcock, originally released in 1948, and this one was shot just like a play. It's made to look like a oneer, something that no one had done back in the day, and was a lot harder to do. You only had 10 minutes of film before you had to change the reel, so every time that they have to do a cut in this film, you know, we'll see somebody zoom in on someone's jacket, maybe zoom in on a glass, and then zoom out quick. Well, not quick, but zoom out pretty slowly so we know that's where the edit was. So they're very obvious. It's nothing compared to what they do with modern films today. Like if you guys saw Birdman from a few years ago, well, I guess it's almost 10 years now. That Best Picture winner was also made to look like a oneer. So if you compare the two, this is very primitive, but it's also very, very impressive, especially for the time. This was Alfred Hitchcock's first film that he ever shot in Technicolor, and it's in the very early days of Technicolor. So it's just like when we got IMAX cameras for The Dark Knight back in 2008, and there was only a few of them, and they were huge and really hard to work with. It was the same thing for all the actors with this one. The camera was just so gigantic. It was really hard to work around. Actors were stepping over wires, and again, it's made to look like it's one shot, one continuous shot, so that means everyone has to hit their marks perfectly, and it has to be a lot of rehearsal to make sure nothing goes wrong on the set. People are moving things around as it's going. The background's made to look like the sun is setting. It's an artificial background. It's all done on a soundstage, but it really does look pretty real for the time. If you look at it close enough, it does look a little bit fake, but once we get into the nighttime scenes and the buildings start to light up and you see neon signs, that stuff does become really beautiful. But the story of this movie is actually just extremely simple. It's about two guys, one played by John Dahl, Brandon, and Farley Granger as Philip. At the very beginning of this movie, the opening scene of this movie, we see the two of them killing somebody with a rope. It turns out it's one of their former friends who also went to prep school with them, David, so a lot of people know who he is as well, and they felt for some reason compelled to do it. They felt like they needed to kill this guy just for the experiment of it, to see if they can get away with it, committing the perfect crime. And that's what this whole movie is about. They killed this guy, and for the rest of the film, because we don't break the shot, they put him in a trunk, and the guy Brandon is just so much of a psychopath, or what we would know to become a psychopath. He really loves to spit in the face of danger. He thinks he's going to get away with it. That's because of the arrogance in him.
He was a Harvard undergraduate. That might make it justifiable homicide.
He's dead and we've killed him.
Meanwhile, Philip is all scared and nervous. He doesn't know what the hell to do. He doesn't know how to take this. Like, he wanted to do it, but then after he did it, he had all this guilt about himself. Meanwhile, Brandon, he has no guilt at all. He feels like, you know what, we did something special here, and just proving to everyone that we are more sophisticated, more intelligent than the rest of them, and we should be allowed to kill off the lesser intelligent people. That's what he believes, truly in his heart. Now, you can look at this film as an allegory for the upper class, because these two guys, they live in a big penthouse in Manhattan. Their family has a farm that they go to, so you know they come from big money. They're two young men, and they feel like because they were born rich that they have a superiority to everybody else, and that the rest of them should be eliminated. Now, in this movie as well, James Stewart plays one of their professors, or one of their former professors, who actually happens to be pretty friendly with these guys. We find out that he used to actually also go up to the farm with these boys, and they have a certain relationship. And that's one thing about this movie as well. There's a lot of gay undertones in this movie. These two characters, our two leads, are supposed to be two gay men. They never say it directly in the film because it's 1948, and the code would just not allow that to happen. But the play it's based on, that was pretty deliberate. The screenwriter for this movie said when he wrote the characters, based on the play, they are two gay men. Even James Stewart's supposed to be a gay man who had a relationship with one of these men as well. And I think when you watch the film, it's pretty obvious they share this apartment together. It's never brought up that they're brothers. It just seems like they're two guys living together, and it's never brought up, but I think it's pretty obvious that they're supposed to be two gay men. And for Alfred Hitchcock to sneak that in the 1940s, and when the screenwriter said that they would never actually say gay out loud, they would just refer to it as it. We're going to make a movie about it. It's very fascinating to me, and you can definitely read between the lines. I think it's pretty obvious while you're watching the movie. But again, what thrills me about this movie is just the tension that they're building up. The man's body is in this trunk the entire time. They put two sets of candles on, and they're just having a regular dinner party. And again, Brandon's just so cocky. He even wants to talk murder with James Stewart's character for no good reason. You know, James Stewart in this movie, he's even a little bit edgy.
The privilege of committing it should be reserved
for those few who are really superior individuals.
We don't get the Mr. Smith Goes to Washington or It's a Wonderful Life Jimmy Stewart in this. We get almost Vertigo James Stewart, which is awesome. Alfred Hitchcock seems to know how to bring out that dark side of him, and he's a pretty dark man in this movie as well. He's talking about killing people, but he would never go to where these two go, and he pretty much points that out to him as this movie builds up to a fantastic conclusion. And the movie, it all takes place in one location, so it's very much just like a play. You're never leaving this room no matter what. At the very beginning, we have an establishing shot, but you're just so impressed that this was done, especially 75 years ago. And James Stewart didn't even think this movie was good. He's like, I appreciate Alfred Hitchcock trying it, but it just didn't work. It was too much of an experiment. That's how everyone looked at this movie at the time, but it's just one big giant experiment done by Hitchcock. And Hitchcock who puts out a movie out almost every single year. You know, it's just like, it's going to be one of those forgettable ones. But for me personally, this is actually my third favorite Alfred Hitchcock movie. I think this movie is an absolute masterpiece. I love the tension. I love the build-up of the characters. I love the subtext of this movie. I think it's a very enjoyable film. I think everyone is doing a great job. James Stewart, again, at the very end of this movie, gives just a tremendous monologue, just showing how he was one of the best actors, if not the best actor of his generation. And it's just a fantastic film. And it only comes in at 80 minutes long, so you're in and out. You know, we tell the story we want to tell. You know, from the very beginning, we're in, and at the very end of it, we're out. That's it. There's no real in-between. We don't really have too much build-up of any other characters. We're telling this very contained story, and I just thought it was done amazingly. I definitely recommend this film. It's a 10 out of 10 film. I can't really find too much flaws in it. And if you guys are into films like this, like that are almost shot like plays, there's a 1984 film that stars Philip Baker Hall, and it's just about Richard Nixon. It's just him in his New Jersey office one night, and basically just drinking and just stumbling around and thinking about all of his mistakes. I think that movie's fantastic. It's called Secret Honor. If you guys are into films like this, I actually recommend that one. It's just Philip Baker Hall, nobody else in that movie, and you wouldn't think that would be so gripping, but it really is. And now, guys, it's time to talk about this 4K Blu-ray, but before we dive into that, if you are a fan of 4K Blu-ray reviews, movie reviews, lists, podcasts, and sometimes shorts, we try and do them all here on the channel. Nothing helps the channel out more than by just simply liking this video, subscribing to the channel. If you would like, we have channel memberships. You can check that out in the description below, but there's always no pressure on you to do that. We just really appreciate any support that you guys could give us. And now let's talk about this 4K Blu-ray.
Now we're done for. Now I don't know. You made me do it, and I hate you. I hate both of us.
So here it is, Rope on 4K Blu-ray. This was actually included in the Alfred Hitchcock Collection Volume 3. So for 3 years in a row now, Universal has put out these really nice 4K box sets. I actually have Volume 1, but I don't have Volume 2. All the scans of these Alfred Hitchcock classics have been just absolutely stunning. Now, I wasn't too interested in every single movie that was in this collection. That's why I got Rope, although Shamrock, aka David, told me that Frenzy's great, and I actually haven't seen that one, so I might grab Frenzy just to check it out for the first time. But I really loved Rope. I had to have it day one because, like I said earlier, it is one of my favorite Alfred Hitchcock films. So even though I didn't get the Alfred Hitchcock Collection Volume 3, I got this on its own, which is really awesome. It is only $20, so obviously you get more bang for your buck when you get the entire collection. But if you're only a fan of certain movies in it, I really appreciate Universal putting them out solely so you can just grab what you want. So you come over here, you get a nice slipcover, really nice slipcover actually, better than I expected it to be. Same artwork underneath. You come inside, you get Rope on 4K, and you get the previously released Blu-ray, which is going to include all of your extras. And it also came with a digital code, so it's Friday, it's our digital code giveaway. If you'd like, Rope will be in the giveaway this week. And as far as the audio goes, as you would expect, it's a mono track 2.0. It's a very old film. It came in crisp and clear. It just, obviously doesn't have all the bells and whistles of a 5.1 or Dolby Atmos or DTS:X track. It's a classic mono track, but it's done very, very, very well. I have seen this film in its most primitive form. I don't know why, but the first time I ever saw this movie was like 10, 11 years ago on YouTube. I was just going down the Alfred Hitchcock rabbit hole. I had to see Rope, and the only way I could find it at the time was on YouTube. Somebody uploaded it. It even had like a timestamp at the bottom. It was really, really blurry. The audio was horrible. So seeing it now with this mono track, I really did appreciate it. I really did. It came in crisp and clear. There was no pops and nothing like that. Nothing you would expect from a 75-year-old film. It really was done very well. And the extras, which are all on that Blu-ray disc, it actually has a 32-minute documentary looking back on the film. Most of these actors and everyone involved in the film has pretty much passed away, but you have interviews with them talking about Alfred Hitchcock. We get an interview with the screenwriter, the actors. I really do think it's a nice, awesome 32-minute documentary. Not the best I've ever seen, but really well done. Definitely worth it. and that's really the only extra on here. You get a trailer, you get some photographs, but that's really it for a 1948 film. I didn't expect much. I do appreciate that documentary. Now the visuals, that's what you guys are all here for. No Dolby Vision, it's just HDR10, but my god, what an upgrade. If you put that Blu-ray in first, just run it real quick, just appreciate that Blu-ray, because it's not a bad Blu-ray. It's not a great Blu-ray, but it's not a bad Blu-ray. And then jump to that 4K, it's really night and day. The Blu-ray looks like how I remember the film always looking. You know, the skin kind of just looks a little bit off, a little bit unnatural, just because it's a 1948 film, shot on film, first one Alfred Hitchcock ever did in Technicolor. And you're like, okay, doesn't look beautiful, but it's still pretty good, especially for the time. Then you put that 4K in, and just everything just becomes more clear, while still retaining that Technicolor warm look that Technicolor had. You know, we eliminated a lot of grain, but there's still grain. The perfect amount of grain. We do not go overboard. We do not undersell it. There's no DNR. Everything just looks great. The skin just looks so natural when we zoom in on Jimmy. You know, there's some close-ups in this, and when we get those, you know, the skin looks real. You know, everything just looks perfect. You know, the apartment, the way it's set up, it's got this old-fashioned look to it, obviously, so all the colors aren't gonna like pop out at you, except towards the end of the movie, in the third act, there's a blinking light outside the window that's blinking red, green, and white, just alternating. Very similar to what Alfred Hitchcock would do in Vertigo. But he did it first here. You could tell that when he wanted to do Technicolor, he really wanted a colorful scene. But with the Blu-ray and previous versions of this, it doesn't come across as a very colorful scene. But on the 4K, I mean, it's so vivid and dynamic. The colors start to fill the space every time it's red or green. And like I said, it's alternating. And it really just increased the mood and tension of the scene. And I really thought that stood out. The couch itself, you'd never notice the material on the couch until this beautiful 4K. And it really is just a tremendous upgrade. Universal, whoever did the scan for this, really did just an amazing job on it. It really is a 10 out of 10 as far as the visuals go. And again, obviously, it's a 1948 film, so you can find some flaws. Like I said, if you look at the background a little bit too closely, you'll notice that that's just an artificial background on a set. But if you don't, and you really take it in for what it is, it just looks absolutely gorgeous. And it really is just a tremendous film. So if you haven't seen Rope, I can highly recommend this 4K Blu-ray. But I do recommend the film any which way you see it. But this 4K Blu-ray is absolutely awesome. Now, I would have liked more extras. And, you know, obviously, the audio isn't something that's going to blow you away. But for a classic film like this, and for only $20, now if you get in the Alfred Hitchcock Collection Volume 3, that's the best way to go. You'll get the most bang for your buck. If you're just grabbing Rope on its own in this brand new 4K Blu-ray, how would I rate it on a score of 1 to 10? I would give this one a pretty damn solid 9 out of 10. It's definitely worth it at the price it's at, and it's just such a tremendous film in my opinion. It's so well shot, and this 4K Blu-ray, the visuals are worth it to see, especially with the Blu-ray packed in and just doing a comparison. It really is just night and day, and what a 4K Blu-ray. But guys, it's also Friday, and that means it's time for our digital code giveaway. We do this every single Friday here on the channel. I'm going to ask you guys 2 digital code giveaway questions. All you got to do is answer one in the comment section below, and as long as you do that, you come back to this Monday's video. We put your name on a magic wheel. We spin that bad boy 2 times, and the 2 names it lands on, they have their choice of the digital codes that you've seen on your screen before you today. And what are this week's 2 digital code questions? Well, we're talking Alfred Hitchcock here on the channel. I wanted to ask you guys, what is your favorite Alfred Hitchcock film? And you know, it's a classic film. I think I've asked this question in the past before, but what is your favorite classic film? Favorite film to come out before the year of 1970? And I want you guys to leave that in the comment section below. Maybe give me some recommendations. Who knows? I would really appreciate it. And guys, if you enjoyed this video and you want to continue to support the channel, don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and if you want to do channel memberships, we have those as well. I want to thank my director, Kevin Kruger, and I also want to thank my 2 producers, Jason Martin and Frank Rodriguez. You guys can join those tiers as well. Find all that information down in the description below. But don't worry about that. If you can't afford it, it's no pressure at all. We just really appreciate all the support. So any which way you can, maybe get out in those streets, tell your friends about us. But really, all I want you guys to do is have a good day and enjoy your weekend. And we will be seeing you around.